Thanks everyone for joining us. This is our last in our monthly webinar series for the school year. And it's a super exciting topic. We've got two of our own team coordinators here, Robyn and Michelle. We're super excited to have them, and I will hand it over to them.
Well, welcome everybody. I'm glad that you are here. And I just wanted to point out that I put that bit.ly link at the bottom of this first slide. So if you want to view this slideshow, you can reference it there. There are a lot of links in it. So that's why I wanted to be sure that you have access to that. Yeah, so hopefully that acronym makes sense and it'll be easy to grab.
All right. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, Robyn?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm Robyn Kellogg. I'm an occupational therapist, or at least that's how I started out. I've been the assistive technology coordinator for San Juan BOCES. I think this is my 19th year. I don't know. And then I've transitioned into being the technology director for the San Juan BOCES right around the time of the pandemic. It was an interesting time to transition to that role. So yeah, I'm super excited about assistive technology, and I don't have my email on here, but certainly I'm reachable, and people with SWAAAC can help you get in touch with me. If you have questions, I'm happy to put that in the chat too.
All right. And I'm Michelle Thomas, and I'm with Adams 12 5-star schools up in the Thornton, Northglenn area. And I am a learning specialist by background. I was a special ed teacher, but have been doing assistive technology full-time since 2001. So I've definitely seen a lot of changes. I love it. There's always something new to learn with this. And with my role with Adams 12, my focus is more on students that have learning disabilities or have a physical disability and need to access the general ed curriculum. And we do have our learning objectives for you. So what we want you to do today, or what we're going to help you do, is to explore why we need to provide meaningful active participation. It's not something that we just do, it's just why do we need to do this? Identifying 2 methods to support student participation in recreational activities, and discover 3 AT devices that support recreation available in the SWAAAC Loan Bank. We're actually going to give you many, many more than that. And then, Robyn, if you want to talk about the Jamboard.
Yeah, so hopefully a lot of you are familiar with using Jamboards, but there is a link on this page that will take you to a Jamboard. A Jamboard is a tool where you can use sticky notes to just really quickly jot down things digitally, and we can all share resources with each other that way. So, you know, as we're talking, or we'll have some time maybe towards the end also where you can add something, but as part of your objective, please share at least one resource on that Jamboard, and I can certainly dig into that a little bit more if people are struggling with that towards the end of our presentation as well. So I can put that link in the chat too, so that it's easy for you to get to. And yeah, just trying to find multiple ways that we can, because really we're each other's best resource, right? So I think we all work with unique kids and have interesting perspectives, so sharing with each other is really the best resource we have. So I think using that and having something that you can reference again will be helpful, I hope.
Yeah, and I think another helpful thing is that Robyn and I both come from very different school districts, or actually she's with the BOCES. So I'm in a very suburban school district, and Robyn is in a very unique setting with her BOCES down southwest, right, Robyn?
Yep, we're in the southwest corner. So yeah, we serve 8 school districts in 5 counties, and you know, Michelle serves 1 big school district. So it's really different. And I think, you know, sometimes for us, we might have 1 student, 1 time with 1 really unique need, and that'll be it. And so that's why I'm so glad to have this team and pool of people to share resources with, because sometimes it's just something I've never seen before, and that's but that may happen to you too, Michelle. So
yes, it actually does. So Robyn and I, we already talked about it. We are not experts, but our goal today is to provide you with a lot of ideas and links that you can look at.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, well, let's get into the fun stuff.
Yeah, so I threw this up there really quickly just as a reference of where we found a lot of the items that are located in the State Loan Bank. So if you're not familiar with the Alexandria Loan Bank, this is a screen grab of their, I always get it mixed up, the Explore tool, is that right? That this is the tool that you can use to find things. And I circled the two areas where we found specifically equipment for adaptive music and adaptive art, as well as a lot of the toys that we're going to talk about in the play section. So I was hopeful that this screen grab would just kind of help you get to those right places as you're searching for items in the loan bank. Now, I think anybody can search for items in that loan bank. You do need to be a team assistive technology team coordinator to check them out, but there are some tools there where you can share things that you find in there with your AT coordinator. So you can use that to locate things and then share them out to your coordinator if you're not the coordinator yourself.
Okay, sorry about the screen flips there. I get a little anxious. Okay. So something we wanted to talk about first thing, we are talking about the fun stuff. Kids need to have fun. All kids need to have fun. So we want to make sure that they do have that opportunity, and that, you know, we as educators, we really want them to have these, everything needs to be teachable. We want to find these moments where they can learn their skills and work on these skills, but we also have to remember that they're here to have fun as well. So we don't want to make just everything work. We did send out a survey prior to the session, and this is a quote from the survey. Somebody said a challenge is that staff not letting the kids just be kids and turning every bit of play into a work time. We can learn by playing, but it can be moved so quickly into the work zone. So it's just something we need to let kids be kids sometimes, even at school. So that was just kind of a reminder we wanted to put out there. And I can talk about this one. It's just remembering that personal preference and learning style really matters. Fun is different for everyone. So we put this comic in here, and Robyn and I talked, and we were both introverts.
Yes.
So you can see in this cartoon, this guy who's an extrovert, he's like, oh, I'm staying in tonight. Where the introvert's like, yes, I'm staying in tonight. Just knowing that something that might be fun, what you assume is fun for a student, or what was fun last week might not be fun this week, and just respecting that. It's just different for every student.
It's okay to be an introvert.
Yes.
I've had to have those conversations sometimes. We have a lot of extroverted school psychs, and I feel like sometimes we come at this from really different perspectives, but like, it's okay. That's just introvert life.
Yes, it is. Okay. Robyn, you want to talk about this one?
Sure. Yeah, I think this can be challenging sometimes, figuring out what's fun for the student. I think one thing that's really changed, at least in my lifetime, in terms of technology and just kind of the world, is all of the choices that you can make now to find personal interests and find things you can interact with. It's not like it was when I was a kid where we all had to agree on one TV show. You know, you have all these different options to explore different things and have your own unique interests and choices. And I think that's one thing I have to remind myself a lot is making sure that I'm figuring out what's fun for the student and what their unique interests are, and not trying to push my own ideas out there. And so, you know, of course, we talk about that idea of no decision about us without us. And so making sure that the student has a voice in things that they think are fun and things that they enjoy. And I think that there's a lot of great resources out there as well in terms of interest surveys and preference surveys, and trying to find those kind of things that are going to be interesting to a particular student. And then I think Michelle also made a really good point that interests change, and things that are fun aren't always going to be fun. And so it's also really important to have that flexibility to provide choices, don't make assumptions, you know, just really being flexible when it comes to letting kids make decisions about what's fun for them. You know, we don't want it to turn into kind of a prompt dependent situation. So really creating that advocacy for the student to be able to talk about what they enjoy and what's fun is really important.
All right, so we're gonna jump into sports and PE as our first topic.
Yeah.
We're gonna jump. Oh, go ahead, Robyn.
Yep, I just was saying yes.
Oh. Okay, so some of the challenges of sports and PE. If you've ever been in a gym in a school, it is noisy, it is active, and it is bright. Depending on the activity going on there may be balls flying around, there are children running around, there may be one of those big parachutes flapping. This can be an absolute nightmare for a student that has some sensory challenges. So we need to be, sensitive to that and look at what we can do to help support that student. Students may have motor skill deficits that can be really frustrating and, maybe embarrassing for them. A student may have trouble understanding and remembering the rules. So we have our students with learning disabilities where they may have the motor skills and be able to do the activities, but remembering the rules or understanding the rules of the game may be difficult for them. The AAC needs of the student can be really challenging in this environment because everybody's concerned that the device might get broken or lost in this type of setting. And then sometimes it's just, the staff doesn't really understand how to modify or adapt these activities for our students.
Yeah. So this is kind of an old example, but I think it can be pertinent in a lot of settings, but I feel like I have run into this a lot in PE of just this idea of everybody's got to do it the same way. We need to assess something and this is the way that we're assessing it. And I have a personal experience with this. I have a coordination difficulties. It was really hard for me as a kid. I have never learned how to jump rope. Every year in elementary school, we had to do the stupid jump rope for your heart thing, and you had these stations, and you had to do certain things to move on to the next station. And for 1 week every year, I would be at station 1 for 5 days. I hated PE. I didn't want to do it. It was too hard. But that was the task. You had to be able to jump rope doing these certain things. Finally, when I was in 5th grade, I had a PE teacher who said, have you ever tried turning the rope? You might be really good at that. And I was. So this was, that was how I could have a role, participate in the jump rope activity that we're supposed to be doing. I was still learning about jumping rope. I still had some kind of role, but I was turning the rope. I wasn't bad at it. I had some kind of thing that wasn't making me stand out from everybody else. I thought that would be the end of it. I would never have to jump rope again. Who needs that stuff? My first day of grad school as an occupational therapist, they had all 50 of us out on the oval at CSU lined up with this big rope. And I thought, oh no, are we doing like tug of war? No, they wanted us to all jump rope together. They wanted to have everybody in that group of 50 people to jump the rope at the same time. And I thought, great, yeah, this is my first impression of everybody is I'm going to have to jump rope in front of all these people. But I grabbed the rope and I offered to turn it, and having that just confidence that, there's this accommodation that I know that I can do to participate in this activity and it works for me, let me feel like I didn't have to make a bad impression on the very first day of school and I could do something that was just as meaningful. So I feel like finding those ways to give kids an opportunity to also think outside the box and have a different way to approach a goal is super important. And that kind of advocacy opportunities that can really stick with them for a long time and have a big impact when they're put in these other situations where they can't necessarily do the task that's being asked of them the way it's being asked of them, but there are aspects of that they might be able to participate in. So hopefully that isn't too much of a divergence off the subject, but
I think that's a perfect story personally. So, I think we've all been in that setting where we might not be the person who feels super confident with something, but finding that thing that you can do and feel confident about can make a world of difference.
Yeah, and I think it's super important when we're having these tasks that students are being asked to do to really have that conversation about what are you trying to actually measure? What do you need the student to really show you that they can do? And are there parts of that task that we might be able to do a little bit differently? So even though this is a really old cartoon, I think it's an important one.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay,
so here's
Robyn.
kind of the first group of links of different items that are available in the loan bank. So that's why, again, it might be helpful to go to the slideshow so you can click these and see some of the different items. But there's some really good fun things that you can borrow to try with students as part of a sports or PE option. One thing that I just wanted to highlight was the pitching machine. The switch adapted pitching machine is a really cool, you hit the switch and it shoots the plastic ball. So, you know, that there's a lot of different applications for something like that. I don't know if are there any other ones, Michelle, that you wanted to highlight? Or
You know, I was going to say the ball pitching machine also. I'm a little hesitant though, because now everybody's going to borrow it here this spring.
Oh yeah, we should.
But our district has actually looked at purchasing, and you can actually find those adapted. They are not that crazy expensive. Really, I would say as we went through this process, I've been working with SWAAAC or with AT for a long time. Like I said earlier, I'm just amazed at what all's in the SWAAAC loan bank that I honestly didn't know was there. So this was a great way to dig into that loan bank to see these different things. The sensory liquid floor tiles are really neat. The students can walk on them and it kind of changes colors and it's liquid. There's just tons of great things. And again, we've linked, we don't want to jump in and out of these links too much because we just have an hour, but definitely take time to go back in and look at these items that are available.
Yeah, and then in addition to these kind of things, there's also some of those supports for sensory needs in that environment. You know, there's some noise canceling headphones, things like that. So there's also some additional tools that might be helpful with just some of those other aspects of sports or PE that are difficult for students as well.
Okay. Oh, this one, we have a fantastic paraeducator that works with our team here in Adams 12. And I was kind of chatting with her. She worked in a high school before she came to us in assistive tech. And I was just talking about PE and just what they used to do. And her main thing was, she said, oh, we always took their AAC system to PE, even if they just put it on the bench to the side, if the student was being super active. This is a direct quote from her. She said, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. She said it just made such a difference with the students, with their behavior and their challenges, just the ability just to know that that device was in there. So that really kind of warmed my heart to hear her say that.
Yeah.
Oh, and this one actually, another idea for when we're talking about taking devices in, nobody wants to have a device dropped in the gym, but we want the students to have access to their communication. This is called a knee board. And the reason I know about this is we had a student that was very particular about having things attached to his wheelchair. It just really bothered him. So he wanted to have his iPad on his lap. Well, you can imagine what can happen with an iPad sitting on a lap when students are moving around. So we started looking at options, and what this is, it's called a knee board, and it's actually for pilots. You can actually see in that picture, it's a plane. And pilots use it so that they can access their iPad while they're flying, because, you know, we don't want the pilot to bend down and pick up their iPad. So SWAAAC does have a knee board like this, but it's kind of nice because it just goes around the student's leg and it'll just kind of give some stability to that iPad. Now, is it going to make it through a game of basketball? I wouldn't trust it to do that, but it can be helpful.
And I think just that idea too of potentially wearable AAC in whatever form that might take is an important idea too. It doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, an iPad strapped to the leg. There could be a lot of different options with that. But
yes, and I think the fact that this was not designed for special needs, this was designed for pilots, but it's really meeting a need that we may have.
Yeah, and then these were just some additional options that I saw of other ways that you might be able to provide AAC in an environment that it's a little bit more challenging. So both of these are playground options, but I saw similar things in a gym. I liked the idea of that sort of A-frame board that's portable. Those pictures themselves are hyperlinks, so you can click on those to go to the actual products. But I also put the link down there at the bottom for the Saltillo poster size printable, because I know that we've had people talk about just using that and having that printed on like the election sign material so that it's durable and can just be like stuck in the ground outside. You could certainly replicate things like this if you had access to a large printer or a printing service that could use that Saltillo file to print a big communication board for you. But there's a ton examples of these online. And it also seems like there's a little bit of a movement to include more of these kind of things in playgrounds in general as just part of the playground equipment. So I thought this was a cool idea.
I think it's great. I think it could benefit many, many students. And I'm assuming somebody's watching our chat to see if we have any questions or anything we need to address.
Oh, yeah. Looks not so many questions so far.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
All right. Oh, Robyn.
Oh, yeah. So I threw this on here too, because I think, especially for younger kids, but really kids of all ages, this has been one way that I've had some pretty good luck getting kids engaged in movement activities when movement is kind of difficult for them. Just being able to be in control of other people's movement, and usually the sillier, the better, can be super motivating for kids to use their device. And a lot of times this is one of the first things I'll try with a student when we're exploring AAC, is just letting them have the opportunity to boss the class around, or a peer or a teacher or something. And this was one example of a Simon Says board. But again, these are really simple to make up. They could be low tech, they could be no tech. But giving a student that really struggles with mobility an opportunity to direct mobility might be a really fun way to include them in something.
And what student doesn't want to boss other kids around? I mean, let's face it.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
That's all kinds of fun.
Yeah. I also added this because we have a lot of students that we have a really robust adaptive sports program in Durango, which is great. And one of the barriers that we've encountered with that is willingness to wear protective equipment. So helmets, life jackets, pads, things like that. Students have to be able to wear those things to participate. And so I think it's really valuable to spend some time practicing with those things before students need them, just because it does come up that you have to be able to do this. And it's sad when that's a barrier for them participating in something that they would really enjoy. I think also utilizing some of the virtual reality VR equipment can be really helpful. There's some of that available in the State Loan Bank as well. I have used this with a student to create a video of the experience of riding a chairlift, so that they were then able to see what that's like before they participated in it. So I think the Loan Bank has a VR camera that can take a 360 image. And so if you're thinking about students trying a new sport or something that they haven't done before, that combined with VR cameras, or you can just look at it on the phone and they don't have to put anything on their eyes. They can just move the phone around and kind of be in that space and see what's happening. You can also find these videos on YouTube, just first person experiences. But I think sometimes that just kind of prep for that environment can be really helpful for kids. And, VR is kind of cool.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. And then I saw one of the PTs in my BOCES is here. I saw her name pop up in the group. She's been really great at advocating for these bounce bikes for older students. We have a lot of PE time that will be spent with some bike riding. And so being able to use bounce bikes with older kids has been kind of cool. And they do make them in larger sizes. So if there's kids who kind of struggle with pedals, that's a nice alternative. I've seen video games be really successful with kids as an alternative to PE. I told Michelle this crazy story about a student that I worked with that had CP, and the whole PE class was doing archery. I don't know if that's just like a rural thing that we do. He didn't have the coordination or the strength to use a bow and arrow. And the teacher's suggestion was maybe that he should hold the target, which was not a great plan. So then we tried the Wii archery, and he was, we talked about what are those goals of this activity, and through the Wii archery, he was able to meet a lot of those. So, a video game would be good. And I know that there's also some adaptive video game equipment available through the State Loan Bank. Oh, yeah. And then you talk about this one, Michelle.
Oh, yes. So many of you have probably already heard about the Chat GPT. I know my team, we've been exploring it. not for the purpose of students using it. We're not even going to go there at this point, but I recently attended a webinar about how it can be helpful for educators, how we can use it. And as I put this together, I'm like, oh, well, a student, how I talked earlier about students maybe not understanding the rules of a game or just needing them more simplified. Well, you could ask this Chat GPT to write a simplified version of rules. I was going to try to do it live for you, but Chat GPT has been a little overloaded today, so I was a little afraid it wouldn't work. But it's pretty amazing. If you haven't looked at it, it's really nice. Could you come up with your own version of simple rules? Absolutely, but if you're me, it might take a while. But with this, it will rewrite those rules very quickly. You just ask it to simplify. So that might be a nice, quick way to provide that accommodation to a student.
I wanted to include these triumphs that people had shared in their survey with everybody else. So just in case there were some more ideas and support for people in those. So we do have those available in there.
Yeah, it looked like we had everything from bowling to using a soccer set from Amazon, all kinds of good stuff. And this one this goes into our resources.
Oh yeah, so just a few more resources, links. This is, again, lots of links, so it's good to have the PowerPoint so you can go visit them. Yeah. I'm a big fan of adaptive sports, so I put that on there.
Yeah, and the PE visuals and schedules, that first link just has some great pre-made items if you need something really quick. So just, again, lots of links that you can go back to afterwards or share with others.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Okay.
And then I moved Play to kind of connect with this because I feel like there's a lot of similarities between the two and resources that we just talked about that might be really beneficial when we're thinking about recess play or outdoor play. So we put these things next to each other. Some of the challenges are the same, most of them, but that again, just kind of talking about those challenges. Wood chips, hate wood chips. Yeah. So
anything else about wood chips?
No, they're the worst. Yeah, I love when they're like, we built this accessible playground with wood chips. Yeah, and I think play, a lot of the questions that we got to the back from the survey mentioned some positives and some negatives in terms of peers. And I think peers are so essential to that play experience. So certainly that can be a challenge. We have a couple ideas of ways that peers might be better incorporated to help facilitate some of that play because it is really important. Oh, whoops. I just was
sorry.
I accidentally duplicated the slide. I really hate
He feels very strongly about wood chips. Okay. I can talk about this one. Just some general tips when kids are playing. Again, going back into, I know I keep repeating this, but respecting the student's preferences. Going down the slide may not be fun for the student. You see people helping them up, and then you can almost see a look of terror in their eyes sometimes. So the slide might not be a good option for them. Not hovering. We all want our students to be safe, and we just don't want to make sure we're not hovering. And on the opposite side of that, we don't want to encourage the students to stay at our hip. We know that students get very attached to adults and they love visiting with adults, but really encouraging them to step out of their comfort zone and helping them with those peer interactions. Using low tech outside. There were some great boards previously on our slides about you can just grab that and take it outside if you're concerned about taking a higher tech. There is nothing wrong with low tech boards. Robyn, you want to talk about the bubble blower?
Yeah, well, and just also with that low tech option, one area that I've had success with preschool students is just incorporating something like a Big Mac into centers time. So, and then all the students can interact with it. So one example is we had a play store set up. There was a Big Mac by the cash register. It was a step-by-step. And so each time you hit it, it would say a different money amount, and it was just part of playing cash registers that you hit the Big Mac. So I think there's some cool low-tech ways to just incorporate AAC or switch use into just centers and play activities that are happening in the classroom. Similarly, the switch activated bubble blower is just awesome. And I think there's 2 of them in the loan bank. And it's such a fun way if there's kind of that hesitancy or kids are kind of getting to know each other. I've had some really fun moments with giving students that bubble blower outside. They hit the switch, there's bubbles everywhere, and it just creates kind of a fun play opportunity between that student and their peers. So I highly recommend switch activated bubble blowers if you haven't tried that before. And they're also super easy to switch adapt. So if you can find a battery powered bubble blower that works well, you can slap a switch on that thing. It's not hard. So they're great. I love bubbles. And then I also added on there I think Jane Corson and the Every Move Counts does a really good job of reminding this, but for those students that it's really difficult, even play is hard because of mobility limitations, or it's just kind of hard to get to know that student. Don't forget about all their senses. I think exploring all these different things in a playful way with kids can be kind of new and eye-opening. And like one thing she talks a lot about is as when you're assessing students is exploring smell. That might be a fun thing to play with, or just toys that smell different or different scents, scented bubbles, all these different things, just to try to explore all these other ways that students might have fun and play with things in a way that they don't normally do.
Absolutely. We do have a comment. I'm checking the chat, and we do have a comment about PE. Somebody noted that at middle school, they had partners in PE, and the first couple of days of the class, the PE teacher talks to the gen ed students regarding interacting with the students with disabilities. I love that. Partnering up with peers. And then somebody noted that Amazon sells a very affordable switch adapted bubble machine. Yay. We like affordable.
Ooh, and there's 12 in the loan bank. We can all check one out.
Whoa. All right. So everybody can
no
get
excuse.
Bubble blower.
Maybe other than the crappy weather right now.
Yeah, that's right.
Some fun with some bubble blowers.
Okay. Oh, I think this is you, Robyn.
Yeah, so I put that link on there to the Active with the AAC. That is a ton of resources that Saltillo has put together. So it is kind of specific to their communication systems, but it's a lot of resources around different games, playground games, and things like that, that are just super quick printables to help support students in those different activities and games. It's a cool resource. And then I also threw on just some information about different national parks and state parks in Colorado that have some accessibility things that can sometimes be a nice thing to share with families that are talking about vacation. I was thinking about spring break.
Yes, and my husband and I went hiking at Staunton State Park, which is down 285 past Conifer, I believe. But they have this track share program that is super cool. You can see the picture of it right there, and those, I believe, can be reserved ahead of time, and it's got a great hiking trail. I think there are other state parks across the state that have them, but really, really great program to share with families.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So this is
lots of toys in the loan bank.
Lots of toys. Oh my goodness. As I went through this, I'm like, holy schmoly, SWAAAC is rocking on the toys. Our kids should have access to all of these and be having fun. So just, they're not all linked, I apologize, but they are all in the SWAAAC Loan Bank. One I know that I think is really fun is the ability to the Magic Air inflator that will inflate a large, I think there's a birthday cake.
Yeah, the inflatable.
It's inflatable. I love that idea. I think it's fun. I think it's different. But all of these are available in the SWAAAC Loan Bank.
Yeah, what a fun way to do like a birthday party kind of thing in a class than to have the kid with a switch like blow up a giant birthday cake in the classroom.
Absolutely. And these are the triumphs that people talked about on the survey, which we appreciate those of you that sent the survey. That was very helpful for us.
Yeah.
So you can see some of the comments using some of the classics like power links and alternate spinners. I love it. Those are still super usable, helpful tools.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, alternate spinners are great for
they are.
many things.
Okay, so we have a hand raised.
Oh, really? How do you spell
Hey, my name is Chris. I work at Broomfield Heights Middle School. I just have a question about the switches you guys have on the library, if you know about them. So we have some switch activated things, but the thing that we find is that from pushing the switch, the time it takes for the mechanisms to like move, like we have a pitching machine, it kind of it doesn't move as fast. I was just wondering, like with your machines, how quickly they move, because it really does. I don't know, there's a delayed reaction. So as a result, the student pushing the switch doesn't always catch it. They get distracted and don't see it. And then it, takes time for the other students to integrate. So I was just wondering in like the time or the speed at which your equipment works.
I think it's, go ahead, Robyn.
Well, it just kind of depends on the device. Like I know
Yeah.
when I've used the bubble blower, it's like instantaneous. You hit it, the fan turns on, it starts blowing bubbles. I think some of that, like the pitching machine, might be inherent in the machine itself, that even without a switch, the ball's got to come down the tube and get into position, and it's not quite as quick. I don't know, Michelle, but I haven't borrowed that particular device. I've only seen videos.
Yeah,
of it.
no, it definitely is not going to be a really quick thing. Again, that ball does have to drop, but there are some things that are just like, boom, that switch is activated and something is going to happen. So it's really not as much related to the switches as it is to the item that the switch is activating. So you might want to just explore some different items with the switches.
And
okay, thank you so much. Because we have a timer. Yeah. I mean, like we even have a timer on ours for like how quickly it works, but I guess that makes sense. I was just, hoping to find a pitching machine that would just launch as soon as it was pushed, because not a speed ball, but just because when a student, we get them to push it, nothing happens, right? And there's like a delay, and then they're already, maybe their focus is on something else. And I just ideally for PE with integrating other students in the classroom, it would just be nice to find one out there. So I was just curious. Sorry to take up so much time on this.
Oh no, that's a great question.
Okay.
And I think on the other side of that, some of the switch toys will play too long. So some of those devices, you activate a toy and it goes on for like a minute. And so you're like, oh, you're not going to get as many opportunities. So it really kind of depends on that particular item that you're using.
And it may be one of those times to explore something that gives like a verbal direction as well. Like we were talking about with the Simon Says thing, maybe it's something where rather than controlling a machine, they're giving some directions to another person that's like, hit that ball, hit it far, hit it short. Just something where maybe then another person can interact more quickly than that pitching machine can, but they're providing some verbal direction around making that happen. So they still have a role in our participating, but they're not necessarily controlling the machine.
Oh, I like that.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. We want this to be interactive, so
Definitely.
we appreciate it.
Yeah, don't hesitate.
Yeah. So moving on to art and drawing. So this is something that I've seen up in classrooms in our district here. And it's, I really like it. It really, it's just talking about when you do it for me, all I'm learning is that you do it better. That why should I try because you're doing it better? So if you cut it out for me, you're going to cut it out better. So it's just, a lot of people have this up in their classrooms in our district. I like that. Some of the art challenges that we run into, again, we have, the sensory challenges. Art can be a very textury place. If you're dealing with clay or finger painting, I mean, that can be not fun, or the smells of the paint. Also AAC needs, worried about getting the AAC device dirty or wet. The whole thing about the staff doing it for them. I found a nice quote off of a website, and it is a balance of respect, creativity, and persistence. How much do we support a student with these activities? There can be a reluctance to modify the activities, and finding the right adaptive tools. I mean, there are tons of art adaptive tools out there, but we all know all of our students are different. So finding the right one that works for your student can be a challenge. So there are virtual field trips. You guys have probably heard of them for different things. So if, art, there is art education. So they are learning about art as well. But you can take an art field trip. You can also, if they need to do a project that they need to read something about art, we can remember our academic accommodations. So Bookshare, you could create an art reading list. So if they need to read about famous artists, you could create a reading list for them in Bookshare so they would have those accessible books. Unite for Literacy is another great resource for very simple, easy to read, easy to access books, as well as Tar Heel Reader. So I put some examples there on those. They have books that are specific for art in there. So those are great resources.
Mm-hmm.
Not to get too academic. I know we talked about that earlier.
There's a lot of fun art stuff in the loan bank. I've borrowed the art roller kit and the chalk jar that attaches to a wheelchair. We've used that outside, which is super fun. I am not a fan of switch adapted scissors.
I'm the same way, Robyn.
So that's like that. I use that same idea. If I get asked for switch adapted electric scissors, I will provide a Big Mac that says, please cut this out for me, because I don't like those. I think they're really dangerous, but they might be appropriate for the right student.
Yeah, and I know we have gotten the Pogo paint pole kit. That's really neat. I will give you a heads up if you order these from SWAAAC. Many of these are very big. These are large items just because of the nature of what they are. So when you get them, they're a big box, but it's very exciting to take out to a school. So, oh, the guided hands. We're actually have another slide on that coming up. That has been a very popular item. And let me go to the next slide. And Robyn, do you want to talk about it? Have you had your hands?
I haven't checked it out yet, but we did look at this as a group at the last state meeting, and it's pretty amazing. Like in one hand, it's amazing just because this really young woman designed this and is making them and 3D prints them and really is open to talking about different ways to customize it. And it feels like such a cool thing. And it's also texturally really nice. You know, a lot of that 3D printed plastic stuff is kind of rough and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
She uses this really nice soft plastic that's not so bad to touch. And then it's just a really cool tool. You can see those metal guide rails that kind of provide stability for the hand and something to move along, and then gives them all kinds of options in terms of painting and accessing a tablet and drawing and not having to touch stuff that they may not want to touch, but just provides that support. It's really neat. So definitely worth checking out if you haven't seen that.
Yeah, it's really neat. That can be checked out. I know that we have purchased one in our district. Our preschool assistive tech team purchased one. It's just really such a simple, amazing tool to provide accessibility.
Mm-hmm. And I think you can look at this too, and there's ways to say, you know, use this kind of same concept in maybe making some art tools more accessible on your own. You know, you don't necessarily have to have this thing, but borrowing it and interacting with it might give you some ideas about ways. I know that there's a lot of other tools in the loan bank to help with adaptive gripping and all of those kind of things too.
These were just a couple of ideas. I talked about, you know, the AAC device. A lot of people are like, oh no, we don't want to take it to art because it's going to get dirty. It's going to get wet. So these were just a couple of ideas I found on a website. You know, those plastic shower caps you get from hotels that you don't really know what to do with. You could put that over a device or using a plastic Ziploc baggie just to protect it. Again, just making sure that they have their voice with them. Or again, there's nothing wrong with low tech in those settings as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we had some lovely art triumphs that people shared that we can put here.
Yes, as an OT, I really liked the seating.
Yeah, and I think, you know, just the physical access of, you know, you go into an art classroom and the desks are different. So, you know, the student being able to even get to a desk can be a challenge.
Oh, yeah. And I see that question about the guided hands. I think so. I mean, it would depend on the student if the guided hands works to support stability for accessing AAC. Yes, you can use it with a stylus to access a touchscreen tablet. And depending on the student, it might be a really good support. It definitely would be worth checking out.
Yeah, and you can put an iPad underneath it. I don't think you could put.
It'd be tough on a mounted device.
Yeah.
But if they could work on a lap tray or wheelchair tray, yeah, I think there's definitely some application there for that.
We just put a list of some fun interactive art resources. The Scrap Coloring is basically a website where you can color with a single click, but it's not solid colors, it's got patterns. So it's just kind of a fun way to color online. And AutoDraw, if you've never explored AutoDraw, it is fun. If you're trying to draw something, you can start drawing and it will start to predict. It's kind of that AI again. It's trying to predict what you're drawing. And it'll be like, oh, you're drawing a house, and you click on house and it'll put it there for you. So it really can help students that just like, oh, I can't draw. So it can kind of get them there. The Bomomo is another one that is just kind of a mouse artistic thing. And then Scribblenauts, Robyn?
Yeah, Scribblenauts is an iPad app that you can use text to create interactive like cartoon characters. So I could say giant purple gorilla, and it will drop in a moving purple gorilla that then my character can interact with. And you can use the voice recognition on the keyboard to get those words out there. And it won't let you say naughty words. It'll say, oh, I think you made a mistake, and like suggest something else. So it's, yeah, that's a good one. And again, kind of an AI thing, but it's been around for a really long time, of just a fun, interactive, using adjectives really to describe things. And that sometimes is an objective for students in an art class, is, you know, understanding adjectives that talk about color and texture and all of those things. So it's just another way to explore those. I also threw on Make Beliefs Comics. This is just an online comic book maker tool that's really fun. It has a lot of click and drop illustrations, so students can make comic strips without having to be able to draw them. And it's just a really, I like this for language arts a lot too, but I've had a lot of students get super into this and just making their own comics using that tool. So it's really fun. And then like Michelle said, you know, there's some interesting stuff with AI. There are some online art generators where, again, like if the students are studying a particular artist and they're working on art in the style of that artist, you can go to some of these art generating AIs and say, I want a portrait of a skull in the format of Georgia O'Keeffe, and it will make one. But I would definitely check them out and make sure they don't have like a scroll of other things that people are creating, because they don't filter out for naughty words, and some of them are kind of raunchy. So it's good to just review it, make sure it's going to work for you. But there are some really interesting things out there in terms of AI and students being able to use their voice or words to then create something visually that might be really difficult for them to draw.
This is just, there are some art resources. This 5 project techniques article was really interesting because they talked about, I put painted paper on there because they talked about one student could just paint solid pieces of paper with different colors, and then another student might be able to tear that paper and make art out of it. So using different skills to make one piece of art. It's a pretty interesting article. The next 2 are just other good articles just about how do we accommodate for students with art. And then I thought about on the quote on the side is, many students with learning disabilities struggle to communicate their thoughts and feelings, but art is a place, it's a nonverbal way for them to express themselves. And I think this is all students that have learning differences. So we're talking about, you know, students with dyslexia. They may have language challenges where they really don't feel confident. They don't feel like they're successful during the day, but art just might be that world for them to really feel successful and share their feelings and emotions. Okay, music. So music, students with disabilities should just, they can prefer music in some degree. Everybody can make some form of music, right? So let's talk about some of the challenges with music. Robyn, you want to take that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think, again, just kind of continuing on the things we've talked about, of course, you need to have sensory experiences in music or something else. So, that's definitely an aspect. And again, yeah, how can we incorporate their AAC so that it can be part of the music classroom? And then, yes, if they're expected to sing or memorize lyrics or know how to read lyrics, are there some ways to adapt that or support students with with that.
And once again, SWAAAC has tons of items that support music.
Mhm.
Trying to look at a lot of them are switch adapted. Robyn, are you super familiar with any of them?
We've played with the sound beam. That was kind of a fun system for a student who was recently in a wheelchair that had been really active in music before and was able to essentially play music with their body in space. So, being able to just move their chair through different parts of the room, they made different sounds and could interact with that. The Musini is also kind of an interesting one that makes music based on it moving around. It might be more of a fun one for preschool classrooms where like the pace of the people stomping around it speeds up the music, and there's some fun things with that. All of it is really fun. I just would recommend checking out some things to play around with. There's a lot of interesting ways to play music that don't require complex motor skills.
Yeah, and I hope these get checked out a lot, because I think, again, this can be really a fun activity for students, and it doesn't even have to be during their music time in their class. This might just be a fun thing to do in other settings.
Oh yeah, and then they just added that Arcana Strum, which is a guitar. We have that right now. We checked it out, and I haven't heard back from the OT that borrowed it to see how it's going, but they were going to explore that in a guitar class for a middle school student, and we looked at it. It looks really fun, and there's just a lot of different ways to interact with it to make guitar sounds, again, with pretty simple motor movements.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Going into the education side of it, we know when they go to music, they do have some learning to do. Again, just remembering that these accommodations that they're using in the general education classroom can also be applied to music education. Going back into the Bookshare, they can have a reading list about what they need. Unite for Literacy, Tar Heel Reader, those are just a couple of examples of books that are easily available that students can access. And
there's
we have
2 pages of these. Yeah, 2 pages of music triumphs, because again, I think this is something that really all of our students can participate in music in some way. So there's a ton of examples of success.
And I like that first one where they found out what the student likes and capitalizing on those likes. That's great.
Mm-hmm. And not everybody likes the same kind of music. So having that individuality and ability to choose is really important.
Yes. And these were just a couple of music resources. The first one is an article out of North Dakota, and it's just got some great ideas for using music. And this Play Anything has some really neat apps that are web-based. They have apps for iPads or web-based apps that are very simple, like cause and effect types of things. So definitely go on and explore those. They're pretty neat. I'm definitely going to dig into those a little bit deeper.
Oh yeah.
This is you, Robyn.
This is my weird side hobby. I love all the different interactive Google Doodles that they put out. And there's been some really great ones for music. And so all of these are fun, simple music games that are just part of a Google Doodle. So they work great on Chromebooks, but you can also use them on an iPhone or an iPad. The very last one on that list is my favorite. It's really strange. I like it. Meow Wolf vibes is really the only way that I could explain it. But again, it's like a really simple, you just tap the screen. You can just tap on your iPad screen, or if it's on a Chromebook, you have to click, and it just plays this really ethereal, interesting music. But all of these are kind of fun in their own ways and are just cool ways for kids to experience and interact with music that don't require a lot of motor skills beyond using a touch screen or a mouse.
And I know I'm going to be adding these to my Adams 12 website so our people can access it. So these are fantastic.
Yeah, if you ever come across a cool one that's not on that list, send it my way, because I love to kind of collect fun Google Doodles.
Absolutely. We all have our thing, right?
Yeah.
Also, sometimes you can't quite find the right thing, right? So there are maker websites out there where it's either 3D printing or they'll make things for you, or you can request things. So the link I put up here is Assistive Devices Makers Making Change website, which is a really nice, or even just to look at to get some ideas. And then as I kind of saw this, I saw this cute little idea for the musical egg shakers. So after Easter, we all know everybody has tons of those little cheap plastic eggs. So filling them up with something, different things, you could put pennies, popcorn, rice, anything that bells, you could fill them with bells. And then, using some kind of tape to tape them closed. Any student that has any kind of a grip or can hold would be able to hold these eggs. They're a great size. If they're dropped, they're not going to break like a real egg, of course. But I thought it was just kind of a cute, simple way to make your own musical instrument, pretty much. And they come in different sizes too. So.
And you could always put them in that pitching machine if you could know.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Oh, and I think there was one comment about the pitching machine now that you said that, if we go back to chat.
Oh yeah. They were saying it takes about a 10-second hold for the wheels to get up to speed. But then a leaf blower only takes 1 second. And I think there's some cool games that you can play with the leaf blower too. I mean, depending on the ball and how light it is, you can do some of those kind of things, or, beach balls, things like that, using the leaf blower to move things around instead.
And I love that.
Experience.
Yeah, because it's just like an item that somebody might have. It's not this specialized item, but it's like thinking outside the box.
Yeah, so I think there was an example that Therese Welcome showed of playing a game with two really small battery-powered leaf blower type things and pushing a ping pong ball back and forth. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you feel like we've met some of these learning objectives, and that 1 through 3 are taken care of. If there's any additional questions, or if you feel like we didn't meet this for you and we can help, feel free to raise your hand, put it in the chat, whatever. And then we could also go look at the Jamboard. Are you comfortable clicking on that, Michelle?
Yep, we'll get there. Okay. Are you seeing the Jamboard?
Yes, but
Not
it's
yet.
tiny.
Okay, here it comes.
Okay. Yeah, so if we go to the Jamboard, there's a few ideas in there, but there's 53 people here, so there's not that many sticky notes. So
should I go ahead and open it up on a Jamboard, open it bigger?
Yeah, they can click that link. I can put the link in the chat again if we want
Okay.
that. And then I can talk you through how you do a sticky note, Michelle, so you can demonstrate it.
Oh, well, let's do that.
So if you go over to the left-hand menu right there, where it says sticky note, it's right in the middle. You click that and that's going to pop up. So you can put an idea in there, just a personal resource or something that works. Yep. And then you just hit save.
I want to change the color.
You got a lot of choices, a lot of personal choices. And then you can just hit cancel to get out of that. And then you can drag that sticky note around wherever you want it. They do tend to kind of land on top of each other. So we may need to click and drag it. Oh yeah, see, there might be some kind of hidden underneath there.
Oh, yep. So I can copy this heart and add it to something.
Yeah, so if you click those little 3 dots that are popping up,
yes,
you have the option to duplicate it. And then you get another heart, and then you can drag that heart around and put it on something that you like.
Look at this. I love the alternate spinner. It can be used for so many things.
Yeah. So.
Oh, somebody got a PE teacher, a Go Talk Pocket. Nice. It's this one right here.
Yeah. This is also really fun if you've got a lot of people that have some strong feelings about how things need to be organized and people start shuffling stuff around. I like Jamboard because it's easier not to write on top of each other, but the organizing thing can get kind of humorous.
Switch adapted Uno attack. Nice. Oh, I have not played with Lesson Picks Play Tools. I have to look at that one.
Oh, yeah.
We have the Zot Arts website. These are great.
That was going with that one.
So we're coming up on 4 o'clock, and I know that's our ending time.
Yes.
So
Yeah, any other questions or thoughts or anything else before we end? We'll keep the Jamboard up so you can go back and reference it. And I'll throw the link to the slideshow one more time too, just in case people missed that.
yeah, hopefully you got
there's a
some
lot
new
of links.
ideas, because the end of the year is coming and we know that there's a lot of fun events coming up. So hopefully you'll be able to use some of these tools in those events.